Awesome, you came back. Just in time for Module 1, goal setting. The way this module is going to work is really simple. We're breaking the module down into 3 parts. Part 1, education. We're going to provide you some research on what goal setting is. Part 2, we're going to shift gear and we're going to inspire you. We're going to give you compelling reasons to engage in the goal setting process with your students, and also these reasons will help your students be inspired to actively engage in the goal setting journey with you. And then part 3, the practical application of goal setting. We're going to give you tasks that will help you and your students stay connected to your goals on a daily basis, create certain forms of motivation that will help them strive to take their training to the next level. So, what is goal setting? Well, goal setting can be defined as obtaining a specific standard or proficiency in a task, usually within a set time frame. That would be an objective goal. A subjective goal would be more like, I want to get better at this. There's no real quantification. But to leave our definition of goal setting there would be too shallow. What we have to do is we have to look at types of goal that can be set. And this is vital to understand if we want to help our golfers improve. So, there's 3 types of goal. Goal number 1 is an outcome goal. And this would generally be result-based. So a player may want to win a specific tournament, earn a specific amount of money throughout the year, qualify for a certain event, or shoot a certain score. Now, this type of goal is not solely based on that player's performance. Other golfers around them will determine if they reach this outcome. So therefore, this type of goal, you can only influence. You don't have direct control over. The second type of goal would be a performance goal. So a performance goal is trying to achieve a certain standard. And this standard that you're striving for is usually based on previous performance. So, for example, a golfer might want to change their strokes gained putting from -1 from last season to +1 for this season. That would be a performance goal. And then the final goal would be a process goal. So a process goal is something that the individual is 100% in control of. It's actions that they must engage in. An example of this might be a golfer might set themselves a process goal of meditating daily. Now, the interesting thing about the research that has gone into goal setting is this. The third type of goal, the process goal, has been proven to effectively influence self-efficacy, cognitive anxiety, and confidence within golfers. As coaches, it's our responsibility to help students with the goal setting process, but we must do it in a way that really drives them into the third type of goal, process-orientated goals. Let's look at this a bit more. So over a decade ago, when I started my coaching journey, I remember standing up in front of a class and doing my first goal setting session. And it went something like this. Okay guys, when we set goals, they need to be small. They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and finally, timeable. And this is something that I was taught throughout my formal education and something that I'd read in books. But unfortunately, I found that this didn't work. I found that this didn't drive people into the third type of goal, process goal, and I also found it to be very restrictive. So you know what I did? I got the textbook, I threw it out the window, and I did it my own way. And this is how I began to do it. What, how, and why? This was the way that I began to engage in the goal setting process with every student that I worked with. Firstly, I asked my student to declare what it is that they want. And I didn't restrict them to a time frame, and I certainly didn't ask them to be realistic. Was it realistic of Jack Nicklaus to think that he was going to win 18 majors? Was it realistic of Tom Brady, drafted at 199, to think that he was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time? Was it realistic for Michael Jordan, who got cut from his school team, to think that he was going to access the NBA and dominate for the Chicago Bulls? Was it realistic of the Wright brothers to think they could bend some metal and fly a plane into the sky? Absolutely not. So I don't want my students to be realistic. I want them to declare exactly what it is that they want. And that's the outcome part. So I ask my students to declare what it is that they want. Put it out into the universe. Don't restrict yourself to a time frame, and don't be realistic. However, the second part of the goal setting, how goals, is the process. So when you set how you're going to achieve this, that's the process goals that was previously mentioned. They are the things that you have to engage in every day. And what I've noticed is the students that set extremely high what goals and then set detailed how goals, actually their behaviors begin to match what it is that they're striving for. And if they don't, as a coach, it's my responsibility to hold them accountable. Hey, you want to play on the PGA Tour? You said that was your goal, but right now, your processes are down here. Your daily behaviors have to shift. So, what goals provide the outcome? How goals provide the process? And then perhaps the most important of all, the why goal. Why provides the motivation. So, what is motivation? Well, motivation can be defined as the direction and the intensity of one's effort. Direction can be classed as a student seeking out certain situations. For example, seeking out a golf practice that they can engage in that they believe will make them better. Intensity is then how much effort they put forth when they're in this situation. And there's a relationship between the two. Students that put themselves in situations like golf practice regularly out of choice tend to have a high effort level, a high intensity. Students that tend to miss golf practice, so they choose not to go into the situations that could potentially make them better, when they do attend, intensity tends to be lower. Now, the interesting thing is engaging a student in the what, how, and why goals process can change this behavior. And the behavior can be changed as players start to shift the type of motivation that they have. A very interesting thing from my experience has been that helping students engage in the what, how, and why goal setting process, as opposed to the setting of SMART goals, seems to have created a larger shift in behavior. I believe students engaging in what, how, and why goals helps them shift the type of motivation that they have. I've seen students go from zero motivation to extrinsically motivated, and I've seen students go from extrinsically motivated to intrinsically motivated. Ultimately, creating better direction and intensity of their effort level. So, let's take a look at these three types of motivation in more detail. Zero motivation. Self-explanatory. The student has no desire to direct intensity into the task that they're engaged in. A prime example of this in golf maybe a junior golfer that is playing because their parents want them to, and they would much rather be at home playing on PlayStation with their friends. This can often result in zero motivation. The next example of motivation would be extrinsic motivation. This occurs when we're motivated to perform a task or engage in an activity based on reward or avoiding punishment. Again, if we look at a junior golfer, if a junior golfer wants to play in a competition because they're going to get a nice shiny trophy at the end, and then they can get a picture of this on Instagram, that would be extrinsic motivation. Another form of extrinsic motivation would be perhaps they're playing in the tournament and trying to do well so that they don't get told off by their parents for a poor performance. Extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation involves engaging in a behavior because it's personally rewarding to that individual. So in golf, a player may engage in practice because they find the activity enjoyable. They may engage in competition because they find it challenging, fun, and exciting. These are intrinsic rewards that come from engaging in the sport, not from the rewards that can be achieved. Throughout the last decade, I've been fortunate enough to coach junior golfers, top-level amateur golfers, and touring professionals. And I've come to realize that when you're setting goals, you can look for extrinsic sources of motivation to catalyze change, but they won't always sustain motivation. Sustainable motivation has to come from an intrinsic desire. So, enough from me on this. I'm going to hand you over to Ramel, who's put together a kick-ass video to show you a bit more.
Thanks, Ian. Let's roll the
footage. Before the actual fight, his mom died. Right? I need you to hear what I'm saying. Just a couple nights before the fight, Buster Douglas' mom died. And so Buster Douglas was like, look, mom's died, mom's was bragging, I gotta win this fight. So Mike Tyson knocked my man out. Nobody in the history of boxing, when Mike knocked you out, nobody gets up. Nobody gets up. My man was like, are you straight? Can you go on? Because I'm telling you, Mike about to knock you out. He was like, I'm good, I can do it. I got this one. Right? So he gets up, they fight again, and then I don't know what happened, but somewhere around the 10th round, my man Buster Douglas does what no fighter has ever done in the history of Mike Tyson fight. He knocks Mike Tyson.
So, incredibly powerful video there from Ramel showing how elite athletes engage with their intrinsic motivation to drive them through adversity and reach their goals. Now, final stage of the module. Let's get on to the practical application of what, how, and why goals that your students can engage in to help them discover their external and internal motivators. So the first part of practical application isn't necessarily us giving students a task. It's coaches embodying the behaviors that we want our students to display. So the environment that we create as coaches is driven by our words. If we want students to engage in a more process-orientated approach to their goals, then we must display this behavior. We have to praise students for their efforts to engage with their how goals and stay in the process, as opposed to praising them for the outcomes that they're achieving. Carol Dweck, a researcher out of Stanford University, terms students who value effort over outcome as growth-minded. And a growth mindset has been linked with higher performance. Dweck states that children praised for results think that they are talented, and that's why they're admired. Therefore, they don't want to do anything to disprove this evaluation. So they play it safe, they don't take risks. This fixes their mindset and limits their growth. Now, as a coach, if we begin to praise effort over outcome, if we give gratification to our students for intense practice, for never giving up, for dealing with adversity, this conveys that success is about the process and engagement in the how, in the process goals. And as I mentioned earlier, process goals are linked with increased self-efficacy, increased confidence, and a reduction in cognitive anxiety. So the first part of practical application of the what, how, and why goals is down to you, the coach, and the language that you use. Praise effort to be in the process and the creation of daily habits. Don't praise outcomes. Finally, as coaches, it's not just the words that leave our mouth that are important to influence students' behavior. It's other actions. One of these in the modern world is how we use social media. I see so many posts from coaches that run golf academies praising student X for winning, praising student Y for shooting a certain score. But I very rarely see posts discussing students' effort levels in practice, students' desire to complete a task, a student's willingness to deal with adversity and go and play in competition. And this is what I believe needs flipping on its head. All too often on social media, we're putting the message out there that outcomes are the most important thing for our golfers to obtain. And this isn't the case. It's the engagement in the process, their daily habits that will ultimately determine if they reach their goals and dreams. Now it's time, practical application for the student. So, task number 1, the commitment contract. If a student wants to set a goal of winning 18 majors, I'm okay with that. But they have to be held accountable for their behaviors. Their behaviors have to be in line with that goal. And if they're not, change your behavior or change the goal. So what I do is I get all my students to sign a commitment contract. So in box 1, the what. This is where they declare the outcomes they desire. Box 2 of the commitment contract, the how. This is where they're going to write down all the processes that they're going to engage in on a daily or weekly basis. Final point of the commitment contract, the why. This is where the student will start to write down their intrinsic motivators. Why are they wanting to make this sacrifice? Why do they want to play golf at the highest level? What will this do for them? What will it give them? What will it bring them as a human being? How will it help them with their fulfillment? So, this can be a long process for some students. It can take time to help them understand the difference between a what goal, a how goal, and a why goal. It can take time to tap into the intrinsic motivation. But coaches and players that engage in this process and get it right, and then once the contract looks good, they both sign, have an agreement whereby a player will be held accountable for their daily behaviors being in line with their goals and dreams. And that is a vital role as a coach. If we can develop an environment where we're holding our students accountable for their daily behaviors, we're process orientated, and we're going to help players take steps closer to their goals and dreams. So, a commitment contract for a club golfer that you coach may look like this. The what goal? Get my handicap to under 9. The how? Practice 3 times a week for 20 minutes, hitting one ball every minute with a full pre-shot routine to a different target each time. Why? Why do I want to achieve this goal? Because I've been good at multiple other sports, I've always struggled at golf, and getting myself down to 9 handicap, pushing through the adversity, would give me a sense of fulfillment and I'm going to enjoy the challenge. What, how, why? An example of a commitment contract at the other end of the spectrum, say a tour player, may look like this. Move up 150 places in the world rankings to the top 50 in the world. That's the what goal. How are they going to achieve this? They're going to use statistical analysis to analyze their on-course performance and then build effective periodized practice plans to address their areas for development. Why? Why do they want this? Why do they want to move up to the top 50 in the world? Because the money that they'll earn, they'll use to invest in a charity that will help underprivileged children gain access to golf, and this will help them feel fulfilled as they want to inspire others to take part in a game that has taught them so much. But the practical application of goal setting does not end with the commitment contract. Once the commitment contract is filled out and signed, we then want our student to turn it into a vision board. So for everything that's down on the contract, we want our student to go online, start collecting images, and build a vision board that encapsulates not just what they want, but it also encapsulates how they're going to get it, the process, and why they want it. And using this tactic, changing the commitment contract from words to compelling images, bright images, pictures that can manifest in our mind, create action. And I've had students laminate their vision board and take them onto the practice ground with them. I've had students have their vision board as part of their mobile phone. I've had students get vision boards, put them on their roof, so it's the last thing they see when they go to bed at night, and it's the first thing they see when they wake up in the morning. But what this does, it takes goal setting and turns it from words into pictures and images, something more compelling, something that's going to manifest in our mind, create action, and help our students take steps from where they are now to closer to their goals and dreams. So let's revisit our tour player. He wants to get in the top 50 of the world, so he might put up this picture. Maybe this one. And this could also help him get into the top 50 of the world. How is he going to do it? We talked about strokes gained, effective practice, and daily engagement. Why does he want it? Because he wants to give back, inspire others, and ultimately, this is going to help him feel fulfilled. There we go. Goal setting process. What, how, why? On the commitment contract, sign with the coach, and turn into something way more compelling in the form of a vision board. Goal setting. Firstly, it's important to note that research suggests that goal setting works. Outcome goals can lead to an increase in short-term motivation, but outcome goals on their own can be detrimental. They can actually increase anxiety as they're low control. Therefore, effective goal setting includes performance and process goals. These are required to parallel outcome goals. Multiple research studies have shown that a combination of goal-setting strategies can produce significant benefits to performance. As I mentioned earlier, the setting of process goals has been scientifically proven to have a positive impact on self-efficacy, cognitive anxiety, and confidence. This view that I've just explained is called the indirect thought process view. That's their beliefs on goal setting. There's another view that backs up the efficacy of goal setting, and that's the direct mechanist view. And it states that goal setting has 4 positive impacts. It directs attention of the athlete, it mobilizes performers' efforts, it prolongs persistence, and also it can foster new learning strategies. So there's 2 views from a research standpoint that confirm that goal setting works. And look, it's very important to understand the research. We want to have evidence-based practice when we coach. But what's even more important is the actual practical application of this research through effective coaching strategies. So I hope so far this module has shown you how you can use what, how, and why goals, a commitment contract, and a vision board to drive your students' motivation in the direction that is required for them to take steps closer to their goals and dreams. Now it's time to switch it up. Let's leave the classroom and let's look at goal setting from a more performance-orientated standpoint when we're out on the golf course. Is it any different from what we've just discussed? Let's go to the golf course and find out.